live here. And there we are. We are live right now. And I'm going you have one of the hardest names to say, and it's got to be a pet peeve of yours. I think I got the first right, okay? It's Mooskaan.
Yes.
Mooskaan. Okay.
Yes.
Now the second name is the harder one for me, but I see that you have the how to pronounce it thing is Baxi. Is that right?
Yeah,
Baxi.
10 out of
10. No, I use because that's how you have the pronunciation on Facebook. I think.
Yeah.
Is how I was able to say it, but it doesn't look like that. I want to say Baxi or like Maxi,
Yeah.
and it's Bakshi, Buksshee, Bakshi. Yay! Well, that must be a giant pet peeve for you. You must have to spell your name everywhere
Yeah.
and say it. Oh, because I believe it or not, my last name people regularly misspell. So I spend my life saying ER because they want to put a U. But at least I don't have to spell and say the whole thing.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Because you, of course, got assigned a name, as we all mostly.
Yeah.
Do you wish your name? Did you ever wish as a little kid that your name was like Jade Smith or something?
Actually, that's a really great question because yes. Short answer is yes. A little bit about my name. So my name is Mooskaan. It means smile in an Indian language. So my dad loved it. We actually thought I was going to be a boy, so they had boy names only picked out for me, and my dad wanted an Indian name because he's from India.
Oh.
And my mom is Chinese, but I guess I have a Chinese name, but I don't. It's not in my legal document or anything, but I have one. But anyway, then my dad's brother was like, oh, Mooskan's a really pretty name. And then my dad's like, oh my gosh, I love it. But in India, they spell it Muskan or something along that line, but it's Mu instead of Moo or etc. And my dad's like, we live in America. She's living in America. She's born and going to be raised in America. They are going to see Mu, and they're not going to pronounce it Moo, which is how they would pronounce it in India, because the U is oo instead of like a short O. So he's like, oh, if I just change the spelling a little bit, it'll be totally fine. Fast forward about a good few years, it is not very fine. It's pretty phonetic, and my dad made it purposely phonetic, but it's still really hard for people, and it's even hard to pronounce it. I get Mooskaan for some reason. I get H's a lot. Mooksan, Mooskin, Mooskan. Those are just.
How about the other kids? The other kids in school? Is this a?
So
Oh.
It was,
yeah.
My name was always very different because a lot of my friends had mostly American names or easier to pronounce names. So it's like Rachel, Kaylee, Julia, Kendall. Those are super
or
easy
cinnamon,
names.
or cinnamon, or sage, or Spice Girl names, right?
Yeah. And so they're like Mooskaan, and I remember very distinctly that someone was like, oh, you don't ever have to worry about your name feeling weird because there's Mooskaan. I was like, well, okay. So I do have names when I go out for orders, takeout orders, sometimes they ask for a name. I do have an American name, but then sometimes they don't even say that, right? It's Macy, Macy, but then I get Macie, Macei. It's very interesting. I'm like, I just took it from the Macy's department store.
Oh.
That's really true about my name. And then people also misspell it on emails and Facebook messages too. And it's like, my name is right there. You can just copy and paste it. 2 days ago, I got Mooskaan, and I was like, please just copy from the Google.
Oh, and you know what? I think you mentioned that to me when I first talked to you. So every time I've written to you, I've looked to check my spelling because it just doesn't roll off your mind. I think that's the problem. But I also think if it hasn't happened yet, there's going to be a point where you are happy that you have a different name. If it hasn't been, I'm sure your dad already said that to you, didn't he? I think you'll like that it's something different, especially if you decide to do something entrepreneurial in a big way. You're going to be like Cher. You'll have the only name, right? You'll be the only one with that name. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, I love being unique. I love being unique, so that's really a great part. It's just people mispronounce it and misspell it, and it's not even just like, I can kind of understand when people like, hey, it's not a typical, like Lisa name, it's not the easiest name that people find, which is totally fine, but sometimes people just get kind of weird when they ask about it or they talk about it or they insist on giving me a nickname, and I'm like,
Oh,
it's a little bit difficult, but I'm
insist
getting
on a
over it.
nickname.
I tried to change my name a little bit, but then no one from like my life was like willing to start calling me another name, and I was like, okay, well then I guess I just have to stick with this for the rest of my life. So we're just stuck. We're just here.
Oh, but yeah, I think it'll get better. There's actually downsides. In my fourth grade class, there was like 4 Lisas, so there's a bit. And last name too. It's not as now. Everybody's doing whatever they want. Women are doing whatever they want with their last name, but of course, I'm older than that. So I took the guy I married's last name every time I got married. Don't judge me. And the last guy, I ended up releasing him to move on to another opportunity, but I was already using the last name professionally so much. I wrote books and everything that I couldn't really change it. So now I have to be reminded of a mistake I made 20 years ago every day that my last name changes. How does you just curious, how do you feel about women either keeping or giving up their last name like that? What would you do theoretically if that came up?
That's actually a great question because I've talked to my parents about this a few times. So a huge perk about my last name, Baxi, is that BA always puts me at the top of every list because they always go
Oh,
alphabetically. So I'm
yeah.
always at the top of every list. And I was telling my parents, I'm like, hey, if I marry someone and their last name is not, higher in the alphabet like A, they're getting my last name because I refuse to be like last in the line or last in the list or roll call or just in general getting like a name tag or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say, hey pal, you've got to have my last name, or would you just
Yeah.
do hyphen his
I
last
guess,
name?
that's a little bit down the line for me right now. So I'm not
Oh
sure.
yes, yeah.
But I would ideally like to stay at the top of lists.
Yes,
So
yes, that's excellent thinking. No, no. Matter of fact, when you your show, I love your show, Letter to Your Younger Self. Whenever I see that thing on Facebook where it says, "What 4 words would you say to your younger self?" or "What 2 words?" or whatever it is, my 2 words are always "stay single." So stay single. Yeah, no, I think I would always choose for career first. Now, that's something you're thinking of. And the reason I think that is because I want to make sure I can always pay my own way in the world, always. And that's been more important since I've got older. But what made you think entrepreneurial first rather than something else? How did you come to that?
that's a great question. Yeah. So my dad's been an entrepreneur for about 20 years, like my entire life. And he lived a really great life. And he gave us, my family, a really great life. It was really flexible. It was pretty family oriented. I was homeschooled my whole life. So I was always with my family and I loved the connection and we traveled a lot. And I saw what he did. And just based on who I was as a person, the fact that I like independence, I like being my own boss, I like being in charge of my own schedule, doing what I want when I want. I thought, this makes the most sense. My dad is doing that. That we have similar personality types, we have similar profiles, so it just makes sense for me to go into something on my own in my own space. I also worked a job when I was around 11 to 16 at a restaurant. And though I learned a lot and it was a great experience and I worked with my family, so it wasn't terrible or anything, it's definitely not something I was going to live my entire life doing.
Were you thinking when you worked there, I could do this, I could run this place? No, no, you were just thinking, I want to do something else.
Yeah, my aunt ran the place, and I saw how much work she did. I was like,
Yeah.
"There's no way I'm doing any of this. That is a
Well, and
lot."
a restaurant too, you almost, and this is just my opinion, you can tell me whether this is true or
Sure.
not. You have to be pretty passionate about the restaurant or food business because the profit margin is not huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of waste because you don't know things happen like shutdowns that
Yeah.
you don't know is going to happen. Yeah. Did she make it through
It's a
that
great
whole mess?
question. We retired about 6 months before COVID.
Phew, phew.
I know. It's crazy. The timing was so amazing because we had been talking to my aunt for a while. You know, we knew that my aunt and my uncles were going to be the last generation. We'd had the restaurant open for about 45 years. And we knew that my aunt, when she was done, was going to be the last person. None of the my cousins wanted to run it. I didn't want to run it. And then my mom, my dad, we weren't going to run it. So we knew, and it was taking a really physical toll on my aunt and my uncles. And they were like, you know, I think this is just a good time. And we've been telling them for like 10 years, like, hey, you should get rid of the restaurant. Time, you know, you can't keep doing this. You're going to run yourself into an early grave. And so around July, June, early 2019, my aunt said, you know, I agree. I think we're going to shut down the restaurant this year. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so we officially shut down in like August/September 2019. And then COVID hit. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. If we had lasted one more year, who would have known?
Wow. That was very fortunate. I always thought, I felt so bad for the restaurants here, all of them, because it was, what a mess that was. If they weren't already geared up for takeout, the ones that were geared up for takeout actually probably did better, but the ones that weren't, yeah. And there were a lot around here because I live really rural, but is your town rural or is it more city-ish or in between?
I'd call it like a little bit more city-ish. I live in a suburb of Detroit.
That's city-ish.
That's like 80,000, I think, is our population.
Oh,
so that's a pretty big,
that's more city-ish. Yeah. Here it's less than 10.
Oh, wow.
But the thing here is, I think it's less than 10,000, but we're spread out over 53 square miles. So our density per population is very small. So when I said restaurants, I didn't mean here. I meant in the next town over. We don't actually have only but one here. Oh, right. But you know that as a younger person, that probably doesn't even enter into your thinking when you're thinking about business, because now everything's online. You can do things. You probably don't think anything of it, not what it was like before that, do you? Or do you?
I would say a mix, because as I said, my dad's been an entrepreneur my whole life and I've been very involved with what my dad's doing. My dad's always worked from home my entire life, so he's always mostly done stuff online, you know, through phone calls. And we actually use Zoom. My dad used Zoom a lot before the pandemic. So I knew of Zoom months and months before the pandemic. And I remember like asking my friend, like we saw a Zoom ad car. It was a car that was wrapped in a Zoom ad. And we saw it, and I was with in the car with my friend. And I go, oh, that's Zoom. Don't you know what Zoom is? And she's like, I have no idea what Zoom is. I was like, oh, it's like Skype. And then like enter the pandemic. And funny enough, I was in India when the pandemic started, like the whole shutdown started. So I went to India. The day I got back was the day everything got shut down.
Whoa.
I got back on Sunday. I know. Oh my gosh. And then on Monday, everything, like the shutdowns officially started for restaurants, businesses, and etc. So I was not around when all of the transitions were being talked about. I was in India. I didn't have that much phone service, and I could hear some bits and pieces from the news and from newspapers, but I didn't have my own phone. I wasn't really talking to any of my friends because the Wi-Fi in my uncle's place was not that good, and I didn't want to take up bandwidth. So then I come back, and everyone, literally overnight, it seemed, everyone was like, oh yeah, we all know about Zoom. We're all at home. We're all doing this and this and this. And I was like, when did this happen? Oh my gosh, I was gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that must have been weird, huh? And I don't know. I don't think it was less weird for the people that were here, to tell you the truth. Because I kept saying to my kid, I have a kid that's 16, a son, and I kept saying, this isn't going to be long term because this is infringing on people's businesses and stuff. It won't go long term. I had no idea that they would be able to do this. I thought constitutionally they wouldn't be able to do this. I'm very surprised. So I think we all were surprised by the whole thing. So
my dad saw the newspaper about like 2 or 3 days after we landed in India, and this was February, still end of February, and he sees one article and he goes, oh, I think everything's gonna shut down. I was like, huh? And then we get there and, you know, it was all done. He was like, yeah, I saw this coming. I was like, okay.
That's
Interesting.
funny. He said that because I kept going, nah, they wouldn't be able to do it. I just didn't think they'd be able to, and I especially didn't think they'd be able to take the hit this long. Businesses were more resilient than I thought, because I thought way more would tank over this. I didn't think people would be able to survive that long without it. Oh, we have people watching today. Last week I forgot to include the people watching, so I'll try not to do that today. Don't we go through that every week with Bob on the Success Alliance? Bob Berg. He's like, I don't multitask. Well, I don't have a 99 here, so I have to look myself. But it's Lisi. Yes, we are live right now, Lisi, and Penny's on, and Tamara. Tamara's actually from Michigan too.
Yeah,
She's
Michigan in the house.
yay! If you click on comments on the right side of your screen, you'll be able to see them too. Um, and I don't see everybody because they didn't let. If it says Facebook user, that just means they didn't agree to let StreamYard put their name in. So then I just see Facebook user. But from Aurora, Colorado, yay! So hey, and Karen Fitz from Michigan too. Yay! You got a lot of Michigan in the house today.
Michigan.
Yay! And guess where you just came back from? You guess where you came. Everybody else, guess where she just came back from? It was Mackinac
Mackinac.
Island.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to hear more. And just so everybody, because everybody on here, mostly a lot of them are more around my age. She didn't know about the movie. Once you find out how famous that movie is, you're gonna laugh. But the Somewhere in Time movie, I am dying to go up there again. I went as a young person too. But tell me what you did like. What was your favorite thing about the island?
Yeah, so this is my third time to Mackinac. I've been to Mackinac I think when I was really really young, but I don't really remember it, so I don't know how many times I went then. I think maybe once or twice. But I went to Mackinac in 2019, and then last year in 2020, right as things were opening up a little bit, and like I want to say September-ish. The UP was opening up a little bit more, so we were able to go to
Mhm.
Mackinac City. But Mackinac Island was really awesome. We went there. It was just a really short trip. It was just a weekend trip with my family. We went to the island pretty late in the day, and then we just biked around the island. Basically, it was kind of stormy that day, so
Mhm.
we were really lucky we didn't get like rained on, because it was raining a little bit before we got there, and then right as we left the island, it started raining again. So we
Oh,
really dodged that bullet, which is awesome. But this is my second time biking around Mackinac Island, which is so beautiful. It's so much fun. I love to bike, and I just had a great time. It was really awesome.
they
We had
still have
dinner.
no vehicles, right?
Correct. So
Yeah.
it's horses and
Nice.
bikes.
Just horses and bike. That's so cool. I can't imagine how they run a big giant business like the hotel. The Grand Hotel is massive and it's awesome, but do you run that without using vehicles?
They've been doing it plenty long, so they have some secrets that we don't know about.
Right, right. They must have to, well, just like before, they must have to send the carriage down to the boat to get the supplies and stuff like they used to. Wow.
That's
Wow.
right.
So what did you like the most about it?
I just had a great time with my family. We just spent a lot of time together. We spend a lot of time together in general, but it's really awesome. I love how small Mackinac Island is. It's just kind of something to see, look around, go into the shops. We went into a fudge shop. We went and had dinner together at this little store. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome. And
Oh,
biking
I
was so
had fudge,
fun.
yeah. And watching them make the fudge I thought was fascinating.
It's so
Yeah, they
much
spend a whole bunch of time. Now, yeah, you know what? I don't know if you do this at your age yet, but as an entrepreneurial minded person, whenever I'm seeing that, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how much the ingredients are to make that fudge and how much they're getting per slice. You know, I'm thinking, how much labor does that cost? I don't know why those things always hit me. That's the same about the supplies for the hotel, but right. Do you already think that way, or that doesn't as much?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think about a lot of different things when I see, those things. I really like to bake, so I always think about, how much work they put into this. What possessed someone to want to work in that space? What do they like about it? Why do they keep doing it? What is their favorite thing about it? Like these are just questions that I see and I think I'm like, oh, I wonder how much, they make, how much they enjoy it, etc. Those are just some of the things I kind of think of. I sometimes think more about like the human aspect of it, because I'm really interested in humans and how, you know, how we interact with things, how we react to things. It's a huge thing. I love like psychology. I'm not like a psychology nerd or anything, but I like the topic.
I think that's going to make you a good entrepreneur, though, because, yeah, being an entrepreneur is pretty much about the other people.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I like what Bob says about if you're dealing on price alone, you're a commodity. And if you're building relationships, you're building a business. I like how he says that. So what got you hooked up with the Success Alliance that you
Oh, actually, that's a funny story. So my dad has been a friend of Bob for many, many years, like many years. I've met Bob a few times before the Success Alliance when I was still a kid, because he lives in Florida and we frequent Florida quite a lot. So it was not uncommon for us to go down to where he is, which is about 2 or 3 hours from where we would stay. And, you know, he loves Dunkin' Donuts. So we'd always meet him at a Dunkin' Donuts. I remember this. And what happened was my dad was in the Success Alliance for a few months and stuff. And this is when I started up my podcast for the first time. And my dad said, you know, I'm just going to ask anyone I can find that, you know, was willing to sit down with you. I'll just go to every field that I can, any group I can, and I'll just ask. So he went to the Success Alliance and he asked, hey, my daughter has a podcast. What would you say to your younger self? Who would be willing to sit down for 10 minutes? And then Kathy messaged him. I think this was April. Kathy messaged said, hey, we're having this group, this meeting together, this lunch in May or something. If your daughter would be interested, you and your daughter can come over. And so we did. So my dad joined the group. I don't think I joined the program. Like I was a part of the program officially. And so we go there and I had a great time. I remember we were driving. She picked us up at the airport and she was driving us to the hotel and she goes, you know, I know your daughter's only 17. If she ever needs to like leave the room while we're in the session and she doesn't want to be there the whole time, don't worry, we don't really care. It's totally fine. My dad goes, no, she's going to be there the whole time. She's going to participate. She'll be there. Open ears, open eyes. She'll talk and participate. And Kathy was like, oh, okay. And yeah, and then we were there. So we started on a Sunday night. We had just kind of an introduction. And I remember I stood up and we were introducing ourselves, so we got partnered up with other people in the group, and we were supposed to listen to them for like 2 minutes, and then we are supposed to introduce the other person based on, you know, our listening skills and repeating. So he goes, who wants to go first? I'm like, me. We're going first. And so I stood up with the gentleman I was partnered up with, Matt Besant, and I introduced him, and they were all like really shocked that I could stand up and talk. And they're like, oh, okay, she's not just sitting there in the background. And that's kind of a little bit about me. And then I just kind of, for the next 2 days, I was there, I was paying attention, I was participating a little bit here and there, I was talking, and then I got an email from Kathy, and she's like, you know, we were all really surprised by you, and they were so sweet to me, and so kind, and so loving, and that's just how I got into the Success Alliance, and then that's how we are here.
That's awesome. You know, it is unusual. My kid's 16 and something, which is 2 years younger than you about, because you just turned 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, I don't think in 2 years he's going to be as outgoing as you are. It's not just outgoing, it's willing to be outgoing. I don't know. You know what I mean? He's not interested in doing a lot of stuff like that. And I wonder, do you think that's just a personality trait that you happen to have? Or your interest in the business? Or what do you think?
Yeah, so my dad, as I said, I've been homeschooled basically my entire life since first grade. So my dad has been very conscious of what he taught me when it comes to business, because he knew that he wanted me to go into business as well. And that's what he thought was the best for me. So I was always on this path. So since I was really young, my dad is also a speaker. So he also did a lot of public speaking gigs. So it wasn't uncommon for me to go to these gigs and talk to people and interact with these adults. So I've been interacting with business adults since I was maybe 6 or 7. So since I was really, really young, and I was talking to them. And when I was 12, 13, I don't know, I think 12 or 13, I did a few public speaking classes for kids that were in my area.
Wow.
And so that's how I know how to speak, is because I did a few classes. My dad says I have a natural talent for public speaking. And so I can kind of just go up there and I can kind of fake this confidence and just have a good presence overall. And that's something that I've been building for a pretty long time, a few years, about 5-ish, 6-ish years of me talking to people. So it's I'm part extrovert, part outgoing, but also it's just skill for me doing it for so long. So I'm not very nervous if I have speaking engagements or if I have interviews for an hour.
I noticed that you recently did a Toastmasters.
I did.
Are you part of the group?
So that's not actually my first Toastmasters, believe it or not. I went to a Toastmasters when I was 15 years old, and I did a table topics. I still have it. I won the table topics of the day, I guess, and I still have the ribbon. I don't think it was that good. I think everyone was just kind of shocked that I was 15 and I was able to talk for myself, and I didn't fall over on my face. But I still appreciate it either way. So I joined in, and then I did another one on a Wednesday, but it was Zoom, because for Toastmasters you have to be 18 to join. So I couldn't join when I was 15, and now I am 18. So my dad's like, hey, you need to have more speaking gigs because you are okay, but you can always improve, and you can't improve unless you talk in front of people. So I said, okay. It was Zoom, and I wasn't. The time wasn't working out because it was Wednesday at 12. And I wanted to do it in person, but as you know, we have Bob's amazing coffee call from 11 to 12. So I was like, it's not really worth it for me to skip on either one, and it's not worth it to juggle. So I went to another one on a Tuesday night. They just started doing in person again, and I went up there and I talked. I think I'm supposed to do something about joining. It's kind of hard because we want to move from Michigan to another state, so we're like, it's basis by basis. Just we'll see what it is, but I love the group, so I'm planning to go back.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I saw the picture that you posted. That's how I knew that. Yeah. That's an awesome skill to have no matter what you end up doing, almost. I done that for a while. The National Speakers Association is an awesome resource too. I don't know if your dad's in that yet, or does he do that?
No, he was a Toastmaster for a few years. He started like 2 or 3 chapters in our area. So that's why he's very familiar with Toastmasters. I don't know much about the National Speaking Association. I'll definitely look into that now that I know, but I don't know what he knows.
They have it's a lot of, what I liked about it is a lot of people in a lot of different categories, right? And you have to work your way to be a member. And it was, you had to do 25 fee-paid speaking engagements within a 12-month span when I joined, which made me do it. I mean, I was just dipping my toe in it, and I thought, well, once I get the first letter that I did it, I have to beyond that do the 25. So it made me step my game up and do it to be membership. And it's funny because you pay for the membership, but you do have to have the qualifications to do it. So it was nice, but that's something to look at because it's a nice credential to have.
Yeah.
So, yay. Excuse us if we have chaos in the background in a minute here because I have a dog and somebody just drove in the yard. So chances are we're going to have barking in a second, but
that's okay.
Welcome to my chaos, right? Anyway, so now financial services do you see yourself as going in that direction as an entrepreneur? Oh, okay. So is that something you really like, or you got steered to and you're not sure for sure, or you don't want to say?
I would say it's a mix of both because my dad's been in it for about 10 years, and I know a lot of people in the field of what he's doing, and specifically the group that he's with. And I really enjoy, this community, and I enjoy the people around. And I think as I'm starting to learn a lot more about finance, it does really interest me because I do like certain topics. So finance and psychology are 2 topics that I really am interested in. I love learning about like the stock market and calls and puts and all of that stuff. It's really interesting to me to see how that works. And I also like to watch finance movies and understand what they're talking about. So I would say that I was steered into it, but it is something that I do genuinely enjoy.
So where does the podcast fit in for that? The letter to your younger self. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so as I said, I've been kind of into business for a few years, and I knew I was going to start. And for financial services, you can't join until you are 18, as you can imagine why.
Right.
So I was turning 17, and we were in Florida, and my dad said, you're turning 18 this year, you're going to get started in the business. So what is the best way to get your name out there? Build your own list, get your own network, talk to people. You have to build, some kind of credentials. You have to build.
Here we go. Sorry.
It's okay.
Dog. Yeah. So you're using it to get the exposure and build your list.
Yeah,
So
and
that's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. And do you have it more on? I know you have a YouTube channel, but do you have it in other places too?
Not right now. I mostly do it YouTube because it's the easiest way to upload. I know there's Spotify and Apple Music and other podcast places, but it's a little bit more steps than just uploading. So I
Right.
haven't
No,
really
I'm doing the
tapped
same thing. I'm doing the same thing to
I
start
haven't
out.
really tapped into that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I should.
So, do you happen to know? Because I've forgotten now how many followers to your channel that you need to be able to customize your URL.
I believe 100.
It's 100.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for that. You
Yeah.
are at like 57 right now. That's
Yeah.
something we all can help you with.
I've
Everyone
done
listening here,
research.
what we're going to do is we're going to go, I'm going to put it in this is recorded for YouTube, and I am going to put your link. The reason I'm not putting in the comments because it's long because you're not able to customize it yet. So we want to help you with that. We want to put that, I'm going to post that in Monday Morning Madness. Hopefully we'll be able to get you over that hump within this week. And then
That would be amazing.
that would be awesome. Hopefully we can do that for you. And then that way, do you have a URL in mind? Because it would
Probably
be
just
yours.
Mooskaan.
Oh, that except the whole spelling thing. You may want to think about that.
Yeah, I'll see. Probably because I don't plan on doing letter to your 17-year-old self for the rest of my life. And I
Right.
can do other things on my YouTube channel, though letter to your
Oh,
younger
so
17-year-old.
your first name is that is a good idea then. It's like share,
Yeah.
right? Once everybody gets it, they're going to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, my name is not traditionally spelled, so even Mooskaan in general is a pretty rare name, even in India. And add on to the fact that that's not even how you spell it in India. My name is pretty unique. So if you Google Mooskaan, everything I do comes up because I'm the only Mooskaan, really.
That's awesome.
There's a few others, like a few nameless or inactive Facebook pages or some stuff, but usually if you see Mooskaan, exactly.
No, that's awesome. No, that's a good idea. I was just asking because let's work towards that goal here because I want to be able to have our group help you in a way that's going to be meaningful, and I think that would help. My own kid doesn't realize why a customized URL would help him because I was trying to tell him that should be like the number one goal is to be able to customize your URL. I think it's because, how do you feel about that? Do you think that will help you or it doesn't matter?
I would say probably a mix of both, though, because I've never had a custom URL, so I honestly really don't know all the pros to it because I've never experienced it. So I'm not necessarily very sure, though I can see how it would just be easier for people to just find it.
Right, that's what
it is.
it
Yeah, and how I would easier for just me to type it instead of going every time to check the website and copy the URL and paste it.
Well, like right now, when you're doing an interview with me, I could have put it on the banner going along the bottom, but I can't really do that the way it is right now because it's a bunch of letters and numbers and they wouldn't be able to link it. So unless it's a hot link, you need something that's able to be remembered, I think. And plus, I know this is going to seem hard to imagine, but in regular business, I think everything isn't online. So sometimes you're going to need it to be able to write it out. And the way it is now, of course, you can't do that. Yeah, my kid's the same way. He picked his own name. That sounds odd, but he picked his own name, and he made Alexander with 2 X's, Alexander, so he could be different. Yeah, why not, huh? I think that's good. Alex, yeah. So let's see, what else have you got going on? Oh, you know what I saw on your thing that I wanted to ask you about? I saw there's a couple things, but let's go with the figure skating.
Okay.
That seems different from what you're doing. Is that something you did when you were younger or you still do now?
So I started figure skating. Actually, the funny reason that we started figure skating was because my brother was just born when I was 4.5, and my parents needed something for me to do. So I wasn't in their face while they were taking care of my brother. And my mom just wanted me to get out there, so she signed me up for figure skating. And I wasn't the biggest fan for a while, but I just stuck with it. Oh my gosh! And I had plans to keep on going for like most of my life, at least something, even though I'm not necessarily looking to go to the Olympics or anything. I just liked it. But COVID hit and we all got shut down. And so they're
Oh,
starting
I
up
forgot
again,
about
but
that.
it's a little bit difficult because there are some things that can and can't happen now, and it's a little bit different with different restrictions. So I haven't really gone back to skating. So I stopped around 17, you could say,
Oh, oh,
or
that
six.
must ooh,
I stopped at 16 actually because
that
I turned
must
17 in
be.
the middle of the pandemic.
I didn't even think about that business. You're not really close to other people, but everything shut down. So, wow, that must have been. Wow. You know what I can't help but thinking is the ones that did want to do something like the Olympics. You can't just take 2 or 3 years out of somebody's. Yeah, I wonder oh, that's a whole group of people I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, I
Oh,
actually know a few Olympians. I don't
oh,
know what they did though. I think there's an Olympian figure skating pair um, who were really popular to me, and I thought they were going to go back to the Olympics because they're still pretty young. The Shibatani twins, or not twins, sorry, they're just siblings, the Shib-Sibs.
mhm,
But I don't think they're skating anymore. Like, I don't think they're going back to the
mm.
Olympics. I thought they were going to, but I think because of the pandemic and everything got pushed back, I don't think they are. I'm not very sure. I haven't really checked
Because
up
they
on
would
them.
have had to stay on a strict workout schedule even without being able to skate. Oh,
Yeah.
or have their own rink or something. Wow.
Yeah, I don't
Wow.
know how they do it. I think some people could skate on their own, but I don't really know because I wasn't an option for me, so I never looked into it.
Wow. No, that's just a whole nother scary, yeah, group of people that are affected by this. That such a shame. Anyway, the other thing I want to talk to you about is um, the whole homeschooling thing. Now, I now I personally I wasn't homeschooled myself, and I cannot imagine attempting that with my own kid. That's a big undertaking. Was that both your folks?
hmm So my
So,
mom was a teacher. That is what
oh,
she went to college for, and she was an elementary school teacher for a little bit. Um, my dad joined Amway in the 90s or
wow,
something.
nice.
My mom, she got diagnosed with lupus right after my parents got married, so they had me pretty late, and they were still had enough time to consider like they weren't even sure if they were gonna be able to have kids because lupus is a pretty hard
Right.
disease,
Hmm.
and you go through chemo and stuff, and it was pretty hard, so they weren't really sure if they're gonna have kids, but they had me. My dad joined Amway, I think again in the 90s. I'm not very sure, but he joined Amway, the company, the network marketing company. I
Oh
don't really
yeah,
know what they do, but I know they do something.
yeah.
And my dad,
They sell products. They're a big
yeah,
giant company.
yeah. So my dad joined Amway for whatever reason, and he says that is the biggest reason why he is doing what he's doing with me and my brother, because the environment there was a very specific environment, and a lot of people there were homeschooling. And my dad, who was someone who lived in India, and in India for him, going to school, going to college, getting your degree and getting a job was really the only way, because my dad grew up in like extreme poverty and stuff, and that was
Hmm.
really the only way to get out of it, and that's only he knew. So he comes to America, he goes joins Amway, and there's some things, and he was like learning that, hey, in America you don't have to do that. There are other things that you can do, and homeschooling is an option. And for some different things clicked, and there were some other things that was being thrown around, and he thought, before he even had kids, before me and my brother were even really thought of as beings, he was like, we're going to homeschool our kids. And that's what they decided. So when they had me, I was actually put into a Montessori for kindergarten and preschool. It was an Indian Montessori in the local temple. And back when my dad was Hindu, and he's not anymore, he's Christian now, but he was Hindu, and that's why I was there for a few years. And then they cut off at kindergarten, so first grade, my dad homeschooled me. As I said, he taught me some things. We learned a lot. I learned, basic math, basic reading, all that stuff, and I was always a pretty driven kid. So I loved reading. I loved doing all of that anyways. I loved science, all those classes. I did a bunch of homeschool co-ops, joined a few homeschool groups where I interacted with a lot of other kids. I had skating, so I always had social interaction. I was always hanging out with people. I had friends and stuff. So, and then my dad also put in a lot of business ideals. So as I said, he taught me a lot of, like, the first book I remember reading, that was business, was I think 11 or something. I read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh.
That was a book, and I remember I sat down on the kitchen table.
Book.
My dad was like, okay, you're going to write out the first few pages of the chapter. You're going to write it all out so you really remember it. And that's something that really stuck with me. So that's just a little bit into my homeschooling career.
Now that you've graduated, I'm assuming,
mm-hmm.
how do you, now he won't listen to this, right? No, he will, but how do you truthfully are happy about the experience?
Yeah.
You're glad that's what they chose for you? Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. Because you sometimes, you run into people and they want the opposite of what happened, at least for a little while. Sometimes you're happy about it later. So you're happy about it right along?
Yeah, it was a little difficult. It was a little challenging growing up because I was very vastly different from all of my friends. My dad didn't have a typical job. I didn't have a typical schooling life. I didn't do the typical things. I didn't have a typical name. I wasn't a typical person, so I'm half Chinese and half Indian. So whenever I was in either group, it was very obvious that I was different. So I was like always different in anything I ever did. And, figure skating also isn't the typical hobby, so I can't relate to someone when they like football because I never learned any of that anyways. So I think it's very double-edged sword. I think as a kid, I would have preferred school just for the sense of being with people. But I actually, fun fact, I went to a public school next to my house for one day, and I think in second grade, and it was a terrible experience for me. It was very bad. They were not very nice to me, accounting for the fact that I was homeschooled for a year prior and that my name is so vastly different. They were not very nice to me, so I never went back, and that really cemented everything for me, because I think there are different things that I would have been exposed to that I would not have liked. But I think overall I had a great experience of being homeschooled. We traveled a lot with my family, like a lot. So I would not have been able to do that without being homeschooled. So I'm sure there's some things.
So you like traveling?
Yeah.
Oh, so see, that's awesome. My kid actually is at the stage. This is, of course, 2 years younger than you. Don't forget. But my kid is acting like I forced him to travel his whole life. He traveled with me since he was 2 months old. So now he doesn't want to go because he acts like I forced him to go all these years. It's hilarious. But in a couple of years, when he can't afford to go on his own, I think he'll like it a little bit better. But so you went to India? I haven't gone that far. What's your favorite place to go outside the U.S.?
Outside of the U.S., I've only gone to Canada, Mexico, and India.
Only? That's plenty. That's awesome.
Okay. I told my friend that. I said, I've only been to like 3 countries outside of the U.S. She's like, only? And I was like, how many have you? And she's like, just one. And I was like, okay, then I don't know why you're being mean to me right now.
In my school up here, the teacher, when they were giving me a little bit of flack about taking the kid out to travel with me on company trips, and the second grade teacher said something I'll never forget. She said, don't you ever not travel with that kid. Travel every chance you get, and don't care what the school says, because it's making the kid a whole different person. And she told me, and it was like 78% of the kids in our class had never been out of the state of New Hampshire, the little teeny state of New Hampshire, right? And that's actually still true. Yeah. So see, that's why you don't realize how different it is, but it's awesome. Don't you think?
Yeah,
Don't you have a different worldview because of that?
I definitely do. Like leaving the country and just I've traveled a lot in US too, and I've seen a lot of different ways, different things that I've tried, different foods, different experiences, atmosphere, different things people like, and it's really helpful because I'm talking to all these people on interviews and they're all from different parts of the US, and I'm like a good majority of them I can be like, "Oh, I know that place. I've been there." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Well, and you know what I think here, I know Michigan, you have more of a mix of people, but in New Hampshire, no, 99.9 white English. So my kid didn't see other people unless we traveled. And I think it's so important because I don't want my kid to look at someone and judge them by their wrapper on the outside. To me, it's are they mean or are they nice?
Yeah,
Those are what matters. It doesn't matter, what they look like to me.
exactly.
And I hope that's what the kid got from all that travel.
Yeah,
So,
I hope so too.
well, right. I think you don't get that though unless you go around a little bit.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You got to go around. So now I haven't been to India. How was that?
That was yeah.
Your
It's
family was there though, right? You
yes,
have
it
family
was.
there.
Yep. My dad is the only one who has left India out of the family, out of 6 kids, I think.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
So
I'm
are they,
trying to
are
think.
they like are they like mad about that, or they think it's awesome? Which is it? Or in between?
I don't remember. I think
Oh.
they're fine with it because they're fine with it now, at least that I know of. So, but a few of my cousins have left. So I have a cousin in America and I have a cousin in Germany. So it's not
Oh,
uncommon for
nice.
people to leave. They personally did not want to live in America because my dad did fly out a good few of my family members, and they didn't really want to have their whole life in America, which is totally fine. They preferred India, which is
Yeah.
totally fine for them. India is a really interesting experience. It's very different from oh,
Sorry.
from that's okay from America, and it's really cool to see the different ways of life, different ways. Like they don't really have sidewalks in India, especially if you go to places that aren't Mumbai. Mumbai is the biggest city, not the biggest city, I should say, but like the most.
Populated?
I wouldn't say populated either. Probably like the most like westernized city that I
Oh,
can think
yeah.
of in India.
Yeah.
They had like Starbucks there. They had sidewalks. They had all of it. But I went to Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat, which is a state in India, like right here or here, I guess you could call it because it's flipped. My camera's flipped, and that's where my like a few family members live. A majority of them that we talked to. It's a pretty big city overall, Ahmedabad. I went when I was really young. There were a few things, most notably McDonald's was there. That was like the biggest thing that I could remember. And then I went back a few years later, and there's some also like KFC and Taco Bell was popping up. And then I go back in 2020, and there was Starbucks, and there was KFC, and there was Pizza Hut, and there was McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, everything. It
All
was
the
pretty
regular
west.
stuff.
Yeah, all of the stuff there. H&M, Forever 21. It was all there. I was like, okay, hello. How are you guys?
I haven't been there, but my experience of knowing about it is just that they're very populated.
Yeah,
But that's probably not true all over the place, right? They have a
I would
huge
say it's pretty. I
population.
would say it's pretty fair. There's a lot of people. Like for instance, they don't really follow traffic laws down there in India.
Oh,
So it's a lot of
oh
cars just
darn.
honking at each other at all hours of the day, and they're just trying
Wow.
to go. If you the best way I can describe crossing the road in India is one, only do it if you are a local, like a native, and you know exactly how to do it there. Two, if you have a death wish, or three, if you know how to play Frogger. I would say Frogger is a pretty accurate description of what it's like to cross the road in India.
Oh,
It's pretty terrifying. I think I've only done like
nice.
once. I don't do it for very obvious reasons. It's very scary, so I don't like to do it that much.
Wow. Now that movie, Lion was based in India, correct?
I
That
think
was
so.
about, have
I haven't
have you
seen
seen
it.
that movie? Oh,
No.
you need to see that one
I need
too.
to. I really wanted to
Yeah,
see it, but my dad said he
yeah.
wouldn't take me unless I read the book. And at the time, I wasn't
Oh,
really reading books, so I didn't really read it. But maybe I'll go
um,
back and read it now because, as you can see, I
I
have a
saw
lot of
that,
books.
I saw that movie on a plane, and it's funny because I always get mad when I go on the plane and I think I'm going to be productive, but then I decide to watch a movie. And I've watched some movies that have impacted my life like crazy because I was stuck on a plane and decided, and that was one of them. I mean, I am not a crying person. No, my mother taught me if I have an emotion, stuff that back down where it belongs. You do not have that. But I mean, I was like sobbing on the plane watching that movie. And it was because, well, I don't want to give the plot away, but you should watch it. It's actually pretty scary, awesome, but scary, I thought. The odds of it happening, especially, I guess, when you have a kid. Maybe so that maybe not scary as much for you, but how easily somebody could get lost. That's what was scary about that movie. But so yeah, you got those two movies. That's an assignment for you here. Somewhere in time, you're gonna like where you've been a lot more once you see that one. And Lion, that was a unbelievably great movie.
Okay.
But
Okay, I'm going to the library today. I'll go pick those up.
Yeah, and I do like reading the books ahead. But yeah, you know what we watched this weekend? Have you seen Dear Evan Hansen yet?
No, I haven't.
Did you see the play by chance?
No, I didn't.
No.
But I know what it is, so I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, that was we just saw the movie, but we've seen Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway a couple times. Are you into Broadway at all?
Not really, but I know a lot about it.
Oh, yeah, we've gone a few times, but I live closer to New York than you do,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about 6-hour drive from New York.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm like a 12-ish hour drive. It's pretty long.
Oh, yeah.
I'll check actually because I genuinely don't know. But I went to what's it called? I went to New York a few years back. I was supposed to go actually to a Broadway show, in March of 2020.
Oh.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, they got some good ones. We've seen let's see, Bette Midler on Broadway as I can't think of the name. That's so sad. I can't think of the name of the show. But we went to see her in that show, and we saw Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen. But I think the movie got some bad reviews, but it was good. I liked it. The only hard part was, of course, the star of the show is Ben Platt, and he's now 27. So for him to play a teenager was a little bit of a stretch, but. Right.
Yeah.
I think it still worked. I think it's too bad I don't think they recorded the Broadway version. I think that would have been better.
I'll have to look into that. I do want to see the movie though, because I've heard some things about it and I've heard of it for years and years now because it's a really popular play. So I really do want to see it because I have the AMC A-list membership where you can see 3 movies a week for free, or for the membership
when they're open. Are they open now?
They are open. They opened up June or July.
Oh, nice.
So they've been open for a few months, and we just went to a movie last night. We saw Casino Royale in the theater. They had a rerunning of it, and my dad loves James Bond. Like, he loves James Bond. So we went to saw that.
Don't they have a new one of that coming out with Daniel Craig, right?
Yep. Yeah. No time to die.
Nice. So he's probably excited to see that one.
He's very excited. He's been so excited forever, but they kept pushing it back, obviously, because of COVID and their theaters, and they didn't really want to stream. Because streaming James Bond on the TV is not as fun as going to
that's wrong.
IMAX.
Yeah,
or,
that's just wrong.
You want to go see it on the big screen, the IMAX screen, the huge one.
Yeah. The theater chain around here didn't make it. Cinemagic, so that one went under. So now we went to this other one yesterday, and it's called Chunky's, believe it or not. And when you're extra proportioned like I am, the last thing you want to be doing is going to Chunky's. It's right. It's just not a good thing. But anyway, it's not stadium seating. It's just sitting at a table in a swivel chair. And they serve food, but the food wasn't good, of course, because it's a movie theater.
Yeah.
But it was a different experience. But it's the only thing we've got available at the moment. I hope somebody buys that other chain. That was so sad that it didn't make it buy it, but there isn't much at the theater at the moment. But anyway, enough of that, right? So when you're thinking about going forward, where are some places that you haven't been yet that you're hoping to go?
I really want to go to Alaska.
Oh.
So we were supposed to go on an Alaskan cruise in July of 2020. as you can imagine, it didn't happen. But that's a huge dream of my dad. He's never been to Alaska,
nice.
and he really wants to go. So I would love to go there. I think that's a really cool place. I've always wanted to go to Europe, France, specifically Paris. I think the Eiffel Tower, just stopping by, would be cool. I think Europe in general, Rome, Italy. I like Greece. I like a lot of those places because I'm pretty big into like mythology in general. Like Greek mythology is pretty big for me. So I think it'd be cool. Though obviously, as you can imagine, the things are going to be different. But I like geography. I like learning about different things. I like history a lot. So any place that has pretty rich history, really rich history, is something that I would love to go and learn about. And I think Rome and Italy are some of the places that come to mind. Alaskan cruises are awesome. That's so cool. So those are just some things that come off the top of my head that I'd love to go, but I like traveling to different places in general.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I happen to have gone to the Alaska thing. Do you know what cruise line you guys were going on before?
I don't remember. I think Carnival. I'm not going to lie. I think it
Oh,
was Carnival.
Carnival's nice. Yeah, the cruise lines are like hotels though. You get into one and you want to use the same one because of the loyalty point thing. Yeah,
Sure.
so we usually go Royal Caribbean, so
So
they
you
have
liked
the
it?
Alaskan. Yeah, we went to the Alaska one. We did when we go on cruises, we usually try to do like the extra stuff and pay the extra and just count on that. So we did the helicopter ride up to the glacier thing.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to hear some screaming and swearing? Go with me on a helicopter ride. Yeah, I would have made a Marine blush. Yeah, that was bad, but it was fun. I knew you don't do those things in regular life. I also did the train ride up to the thing. That was really worth it too. So I hope if you guys go and you get to go, you do all those extra things. So that was neat. My second husband, yes, I number them, don't judge me. We went, what was it? Alaska salmon fishing or something. Is it salmon something fishing? And it was funny because they call it fishing, but what happens is they throw you the fish. They do all the work and you just catch the fish in your hand. And you can say you caught a fish, but really you just caught a fish they threw. So for the picture they show you, yeah, that was funny. But seeing eagles going over and stuff like that, it was really, I won't forget it. Except for him, I cut him out the pictures. But other than that, it was awesome. Yeah, I think as you get older, you realize you're in some stuff you're good at, and some stuff you're not. Right?
Yeah.
I'm good at work stuff. I'm just not good at the whole marriage thing, which is awesome still, because some people, like when you get older, women outlive men because there's less men around, right? So some women need to be single. So see, I'm doing the job. See, I've
You're getting a head
decided.
start.
Yeah, see, I'm good at it, so I'm going to keep at it.
Exactly. Yeah, my grandpa died in the 90s, and my grandma lived until this year.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
And she was good at it, probably.
Actually, she was in pretty good health. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good. She was pretty persistent. She was really stubborn. She was like the type that I think my mom distinctly remembers right before she passed, like a month or two before she passed. My mom put like this table or something in the living room, or she moved it, and my grandma noticed, and she pushed this entire table back to where it was. And my mom comes down again like a day or two later, and she's like, "Wait a minute, this was moved." She's like, "Who moved it?" She's asking around the house, and it's only me, the four of us, and plus my aunt. And she's asking, she's like, "Did you guys move anything?" And we're like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And my mom's like, "Oh my gosh, Grandma moved this table." And yeah, so she was doing pretty well. I'm not gonna lie.
Have her way. She go have her way no matter what. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that. That's kind of like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're getting the end already. How else can we help you? We want to build your attendance or your following on YouTube so you can get your personalized URL. Are you looking for people in different fields to do your podcast with you?
Yeah.
So how would they apply for that if they want to?
Sure.
Apply?
I'm open to anyone who's willing to help me. Someone who comes in with an attitude of, "Hey, I want to help you. I want to learn with you. And anyone who's really open to it, the best way you can reach me is, honestly, like I said, you can just Google my name and you can find my contact pretty easily. My email, if anyone wants to email me, is just mooskaanbaxi@gmail.com. So it's my name at gmail.com. My LinkedIn is in my name, Mooskaan Baxi. My Facebook is my name. My Instagram is my name. So if anyone is seeing this and they'd say, hey, I will be willing to sit down with you for about 10 minutes, just kind of talking about my life and what I've learned from my life. It's a pretty simple topic. And
Awesome.
be willing to sit down, just send me an email or a message, a direct message, any of that. I'm definitely willing to sit down and listen. I'd love to listen to anyone who's willing to listen with me.
Awesome. So that's a letter to your younger self.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And of course, the roundup question, the last one, you knew it was coming. Do you want cookies, brownies, or sea salt caramels today?
Ooh, such a good selection. Oh my gosh. I am a huge fan of brownies. I'm not going to lie. I
Oh,
love brownies.
okay. So I'll send enough to share because I know you
Okay.
have more than just you. And
It's
I
okay.
did want to say before we got on here live, we were talking and you have sent over 5,000 cards on send out cards as well. So
Yeah,
we both have used it extensively and we both were getting a kick out of it too. It's just such a great tool.
it is.
Anyway, thank you very much. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you coming on here. And
Yeah.
I'm going to put this up on YouTube. If you'll stay right there just for a moment, I'll
Okay.
meet you back in the green room to wrap things up, but I'll stop the recording.
Awesome.
And
Thank you so much. I really had a great time. It was such a pleasure.
thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.